When I share my story, it's about more than building an inspirational space for artists. I represent the creative spirit of the nation, the Choctaw Nation.
I am our past.
I am our present.
I am our future.
I am all of us. When we share, we become one.
Because our stories make us more.
Stories keep our culture alive.
See them and share them at togetherwe'remore.com.
It's called Hollywood! Lights, camera, action, Hollywood Brown! CD Lamb still running! It's a corner! CD! For the TD!
People don't know what it is to be champions. Oklahoma invented it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Through the Keyhole. It is Brady Trantham, and that's Peyton Guthrie, and that's Alan Kenny. Three of the four horsemen, because the fourth horseman, Matt Burton, is too busy shaking his pom-poms for the Oklahoma City Thunder as they raise the banner for the 24-25 NBA championship from last season. Their season is about to tip off in just a few minutes, but Matt's there, so no Keyhole for Matt Burton. But yeah, welcome to Through the Keyhole. It's an Oklahoma football fan podcast. We got a big game this week. Peyton, real quick, I already mentioned the Thunder. Go ahead and just share some Spurs propaganda so we can be balanced and unbiased.
Yeah, Spurs tip off Friday night against the Mavs. It'll be really cool to see that. Wimby, obviously.
Cooper Flag! Oh my God!
Cooper. And I don't know if you saw any of the preseason stuff with Wimby. He's moving in a way that it looks real good for a Spurs fan if he can stay healthy.
Nope. Nobody cares. Like, he's old news now. It's like, it's Cooper Flag, right? He's going to be the rookie of the year, right? Right?
Oh,
maybe.
We'll see. We'll see. I think the Spurs have that in the stranglehold. 3 in a row.
There you go. Maybe Wemby will win the defensive player of the year this year as well. Alan, any NBA thoughts?
Not really. The Magic look interesting.
They look interesting.
Yeah, the East is kind of messy, right? So
how long have you lived around the DC area? I actually don't know this.
Gosh, I don't know if I know it either. Let me think. 21 years.
And in those 21 years, was there ever a moment where you thought, man, the Wizards actually have a chance this year?
No, and that is coming as someone who used to have Wizard season tickets. I went to a lot of games, and they weren't bad, and in fact they were, probably at times maybe the third or fourth best team in the East. But I never watched them play and thought, oh yeah, this team's going to the finals. Like, never, no, not once, not one time.
That's a shame. Oh well, we're back to college football, but yeah. We're excited. Ole Miss is coming to Norman, and don't forget, everybody, if you've not done so already and you're not prepared for this awesome 11 a.m. kickoff this Saturday, you need to go check out the exclusive apparel sponsor for Through the Keyhole. That is Home Field Apparel. Go to homefieldapparel.com. You might be able to get a shirt or a hoodie or a sweater. It's going to be kind of sweater weather this Saturday, so get your orders in now. Help them out. We would greatly appreciate that. And also thank you to our other sponsors. The Spirit Shop in Norman, which will be busy, I'm sure, delivering all the ingredients for Bloody Marys, mimosas, screwdrivers, tequila sunrises. Peyton, Alan, any other brunch cocktails of note that I've missed out on?
Oh, Fuzzy Navel or a Shirley Temple, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
You name it, the Spirit Shop's got it. So Alan's like our brunch expert. So that has just now been confirmed. And then the next day on Sunday, after you have intaken all the liquids and all the foods that you're like, it wasn't the best decision, you can go to Kaizen Performance Gym in Norman, Oklahoma to go get your body right. Go check them out. North Norman, very, very North Norman, almost to Moore, just straight north down Porter until it turns into Sunny Lane. You can't miss it. It's right off the road. And then, of course, title sponsor, the Choctaw Nation. That's where Peyton works. Go check out Together We Are, or Together We're More, not Together We Are More. Together, WERE more.com to go find all the content, all the videos that Peyton works really hard on when he's not working on Through the Keyhole stuff. And we appreciate Peyton's work, and he's an expert. He's a professional. Go check it out. Also, people, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, at keyholepond.com. Leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple and Spotify. Please do so. Please, please, please. And if you've done so and it's like, I can't because my phone's saying that I already did it, well, everyone's got a mom or a dad or a brother or sister, husband, wife, ex. Force them to do it. Force them at water gun point to do so. And it's starting to get chilly, so a water gun to the face might not be fun. So they'll probably follow through with your threat. And don't forget Spotify comments. You can always leave a comment or question after each episode once it drops on Spotify. So go do that. And then one more announcement. Our patrons found out about this. Go check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/throughthekeyhole. As most people understand, SEC Nation is coming back to Norman. They were here previously for the Auburn game. So that's Paul Feinbaum. That's the Marty guy. Marty McGee, I think I don't know his name. And then there's that other guy with the glasses. They do their shows from campus. I think they were on the South Oval last time. Don't know where they're going to be just yet. But wanted to, I've got this is a podcast, so you're not going to be able to see it. But our patrons will be able to see this once I post a picture of them. But on my computer chair, I've got a ton of OU jerseys that are essentially not really worn. They've never really been worn. So I need to get rid of them. And so I am asking patrons and free listeners alike, if you go to SEC Nation's set and get creative, because if a dozen people do this, we're going to have to make this a drawing or choose the most creative. So get really creative with this. But if you can just go to their set on the South Oval, wherever it might be, and you hold up a sign that essentially says, listen to Through the Keyhole, or Through the Keyhole, it's better than most, stuff like that. Get creative with it. If you've listened to the show, you know what would make me laugh. You know what would make everybody else laugh. If you do that and we see it and we get in contact with you, get in contact with us and show us that it was you, we will give you some OU goodies. And we've got, like I said, some OU jerseys. We've got, let's see, our patrons get exclusive prizes. So if any of the patrons do it, they get some exclusive prizes. And don't forget, you can join our Patreon page for free to give it a tryout before you donate some of your hard-earned money. But there's going to be some prizes. I think there's also a horns down, Texas sucks hat or something like that. So go check out patreon.com/throughthekeyhole for more information if you're interested. But I thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd look funny if someone had a sign at SEC Nation. And I don't even know what the rules are. I don't know if ESPN's gonna be nope, can't do that. But so if you can't, then I guess screw it. But oh well, try it anyway. But did I miss anything, Peyton?
No, you got everything completely covered completely. I think we're ready to start talking about some OU football.
No, we're going to talk about James Franklin. I'm really sorry. We're going to cut right to the end of the show. Yes, OU. Well, when we last left our heroes, they beat the Gamecocks 26-7 in a rather solid professional type victory. So, guys, any final thoughts from the Cox win? Alan, I'll start with you. And the main question that I think everybody is I guess there's probably two main questions. One, we saw a much better John Mateer than we did in the Texas game, but it wasn't exactly a September Heisman candidate level of play for John Mateer. But Ben Arbuckle said it today. He did everything that he was asked to do. So maybe the assumption is with another game under his belt, with another week of practice under his belt, we'll get to see an even better John Mateer. So there's that thought out there. And then also the running game and the offensive line finally did it against a fairly good defense in South Carolina. So how much of that can we buy into going up against Ole Miss, going up against this slate of teams? So any final thoughts now that we had a few days to come down from the awesome victory on the road in the SEC?
Yeah, my guess with Mateer is that against Texas, it was more a matter of him being kind of rusty. He was out of action for so long. It's hard to just jump back in there. And I'm sure that there was probably some lingering physical effects from his hand surgery. So, the farther we get away from that and the more time he's back with the team doing all the usual stuff, I expect that he'll perform better. As for the running game, it wasn't anything that just was world beating, but it was really good. It's not going to, I mean, it was good for that context. And I don't see the overall identity of this offense changing, especially even given how they played over the weekend. But OU needed something more consistent and solid from the running game, and that's what the Sooners got. And you just hope that is something that they can build on going forward.
Yeah, and look, I think people are starting to kind of become aware of this. I mean, between Michigan, Auburn, Texas, and South Carolina, OU has played. I mean, South Carolina was the lowest rated one per SP plus. They were the 17th rated defense overall. But the other three opponents were all top 10, and Texas was number 1, Michigan 9, and Auburn 10. So you go through that. You have all the trouble with the traditional run game. You have some trouble with John Mateer in terms of efficiency and a lack of explosive play. But then you get to play Ole Miss and then Tennessee. And these teams aren't really, they're more finesse. They're more kind of akin to some like bastardized versions of awesome OU teams in the Big 12 that, clearly lived on offense and just said defense get a stop or two or maybe get a turnover or two and give our offense more opportunities. So maybe that could equate to better success in the run game, better success for John Mateer individually. I mean, Peyton, how are you seeing it coming off of the South Carolina win?
Well, I think it's the SEC shorts that really summed it up. If you guys watched that, where it is like group counseling or whatever, and it had Oklahoma and Missouri teams, or like teams that haven't beat anybody. And Oklahoma was like, "We just beat South Carolina," and the girl's like, "Oh, so you get it?" So, there's a point to it where, there's a lot of people who are like cracking their necks, and I had said the South Carolina game was a chance for OU to kind of crack their neck and like, let's get into it. Now, 26-7, you can say how much of that is like a full on, like full throated, like we're back in business. But South Carolina is potentially right now the worst team in the SEC, with the worst run defense of a Power 4 team Oklahoma has played, and they were able to perform that way. Now, you could point and say Oklahoma did not run this way against Kent State or Illinois State or all the other team we played that was horrible. So there is a positive to that. Oklahoma was able to run the football on a Power 4 team pretty effectively. I want to see some more consistency out of it, but pretty effectively. And that's without an actual run game from the quarterback all that much, right? I mean, we had John Mateer getting a lot of 1-2 yard gains when he used to be getting 5 to 10 yard gains. So I think once he gets fully healthy, you could see this. Now, if Oklahoma is able to run like they did against South Carolina against Ole Miss, I think it's should be a decently easy. I don't say decently easy. It should be a game in which OU can win and cover. I think the point spread's like 5 right now, maybe 5.5. I know it opened at 4.5. I saw some people saying it's being bet up, but potentially. So I think if Oklahoma can perform how they did against South Carolina and prove that it was more a matter of execution as opposed to a matter of opponent, that would be beneficial moving forward for Oklahoma and honestly still their playoff chances.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting just because, I mean, if you've subscribed to the thought that the main reason why the Texas game went the way that it did, now we've got the hindsight of, and look, everybody understands that the week after OU Texas is bad it's difficult for both squads, whether you've won the game or lost the game. And Texas had to take, I mean, it took them 70 minutes to beat Kentucky, 16-13 in a game where their offense was completely and utterly awful, even worse than I thought it was going to be going into the OU game, where they certainly outperformed themselves. So understanding that it's an emotional, like, kind of let down, you win the OU game, all that being said, I don't necessarily know how good Texas is just yet. I still think that they're going to lose like 2 or 3 games. But all that said, if you subscribe to the thought that, well, the reason why the Texas game went the way that it did for OU was because John Mateer was utterly rusty, slow in terms of like his eyes and reading defenses and making decisions and all that stuff. And that led to him not being decisive, making poor decisions, making mistakes, not hitting on throws that could have easily. That's then you should have then thought he's going to be better against South Carolina because he'll have a week of practice. And he certainly was that. So if you still believe in that, he should even be better against Ole Miss, which against on paper, a more gettable defense than some of the defenses that OU's played this year so far. That should be able to lead to OU finally flexing its muscles a little bit offensively. I mean, Alan, is that too fanboyish of me to go into this game and assume that?
No, I would. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's too fanboyish at all. I mean, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I mean, it's funny if you look at you mentioned the SP Plus ratings for the different facets of their these two Ole Miss and Tennessee, their games. They profile very similarly to the OU 2023 team, except they've got much better special teams. Which is it's just kind of funny to think about it like in that as that kind of parallel. I mean, in that case, I kind of like the way this OU team is playing compared, if that's what they're going to end up seeing, the next 2 weeks.
I mean, Peyton, you're usually the one who tells me that I'm being too fanboyish, so I'll ask you the same question.
No, I mean, I truly think this team, I think Oklahoma is rounding into a team in which can compete. Like I'm starting to do a turnaround from, my preseason prediction was 8-4. I'm leaning more towards 9-3 now, looking at the remaining of the schedule and looking at the flaws of each of these teams. I think the thing that's turning my mind about from 8-4 to 9-3. I know that's, if you're a listener, you're probably like, you're a jack off. Who cares? It's one game difference. It's not that big of a deal. To me,
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's a bigger jump. But to me, I'm looking at it and seeing how the defensive line handled South Carolina, re-looking at that Texas game via, all 22 stuff. I think the defensive line, I apologize. The defensive line is such a unique and elite squad that some of these teams in which are making their hay via offensive line control, it just feels like Oklahoma is going to have an ability to dictate the terms of engagement much more than it would be in the past, right? I think like if they're profiling out to a 2023 Oklahoma team, which had a decent O-line but wasn't like an overly physical O-line, it wasn't moving stuff around. Now I know Alan's not talking about the actual personnel, but talking about how like they're rating out. But I just think the investments that this staff put in defensive line are just completely and fully paying every single ounce of their dividends right now, and it totally changes the outlook of this team.
I mean, yeah, that's the prevailing thought. But again, OU's got to go out there and do something about it because numbers are numbers. But here's some more numbers for everyone to think about because Ole Miss, they come in with an offense that has the capability to score a lot of points fast, and it could be very easy for OU fans. And I certainly thought this a little bit last week when I was doing the post-game show on the radio because the Ole Miss and the Georgia game was going on at the same time. And I'm just watching for the first 3 quarters, Ole Miss just scoring with relative ease against overall a pretty good defense. It's fucking Georgia. I know that their pass rush isn't particularly good. In fact, it's really bad. So it should be a culture shock for Ole Miss when they go up against our defensive line. But they're scoring on 60-yard plays, 70-yard plays. Like, it's just like, oh boy, we've not really seen something like that this year. Are we going to be able to stop it? Are we going to be able to keep those big plays from happening? And if they do happen, can our offense, which has been, fine because this is the University of Oklahoma and we demand excellence. Overall, it's been what is it, guys? Offensively rated, we're 39th, right? In SP Plus?
Correct.
So is that like, what does that mean? Just overall 39th, is that like good but not great? Is that in that category or is it average? Because I don't know what average would be.
Well, national median would be what, around like 65, 67. So, it's like fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine, but do you guys think that it has the capability to be better this season? Because it's really like the alternative is, just for an example, it's really hard for an offensive line to just suddenly become a great run blocking team if they're not very good at all. And they can improve. You can have a respectable run game that isn't 1.9 yards per carry average in the Cotton Bowl bad. It can be slightly better. But if they can't improve in 1 year, if like a unit can't, is it safe to assume that the offense overall can, in terms of its SP plus rating, in terms of its explosiveness, I mean, whatever you want to call it?
I mean, yeah, part of that too is forcing kind of teams to play by the terms that you set for them, so things like, generating explosiveness, if OU does end up running the ball better, that'll help. Part of the reason why it seems like they're probably not able to get so many plays down the field has to do with how teams are kind of allocating their manpower and resources to stopping OU's offense. And right now, it's the run. You can kind of ignore the running game and look, kind of in that 10 plus 10 to 20 yard range, those medium range passes. That's where Mateer has made his money, trying to stop him there. But we saw last week with South Carolina, he was able to get the running game going, and that changed things. So, that's kind of what you're hoping for in an ideal world.
Yeah. And I mean, OU's dictated essentially every game that they've played in, except until the third quarter, where Texas found a lot of success. And I think it's really easy to understand why. I mean, like Sark he ran screens and outlet passes and took advantage of Brent Venables' defense's aggression and kind of turned it against them to an extent. And then the offense just wasn't holding up its end of the deal. And so it happened how it happened. But other than that, like, OU's forced teams to just drain the play clock because they want to shorten the game and just keep opportunities away from OU's offense because the defense is so good. Like, they've dictated essentially every game that they've played in. So hopefully that can continue. But for the numbers, Ole Miss's offense, wowee, it's awesome. Here's who they've played this year so far. SP plus defensive ratings. They've played Kentucky, who's 38th, Arkansas, who's 94th, Georgia, who was 18th. That was last week. And then the real only comparable defense that they've played to OU's is LSU, who is 6th. But I think, as we've all seen the last handful of weeks, LSU is pretty garbage because their offense is so bad. They're a much better version of the OU team last year, but they're essentially the same team, where they've got a really good defense and their offense undermines any greatness their defense has. I mean, LSU's offense is 48th offensive SP plus rated to OU's 39th. So that's what Ole Miss has seen, Peyton. I mean, what should the expectation be for OU fans with our defense going up against their offense, Brent Venables going up against Lane Kiffin? Like, what should we expect to see?
I think you see honestly what you've seen. I've seen some people say like, "Oh, this is the game where Oklahoma's going to drop back some stuff." I think based on what little I've seen of Ole Miss, because I watched some of the Georgia game and some of the other games, they try to get the ball out on time with the quarterback Trinidad, right? And there's a lot of, especially at Georgia, they a lot of stop routes, a lot of hitches, a lot of outs. It's like, because Georgia kept dropping guys, so they kept throwing underneath the coverage. I think Oklahoma is going to be in the wide receiver's face. They're going to have 7 guys on the line, and they're going to play the game they've been playing and see if it burns them or not. I think, until they have to adjust. I'm just not sure there is a reason. Maybe there's some sign stealing stuff going on, so Brent does need to change it. I'm not for sure if there is a reason for Brent Venables to change anything he's really doing, right? Because what we're running into is something that I do this quite often. This is my new tick. Something that Alan has said, or Alan and I have said. Oklahoma, especially on the defensive line, it's not about schematic anymore. Oklahoma is executing because they have a lot of really talented guys. So it doesn't, it's kind of like, you're not like, there's no reason to overcomplicate it.
You just say Jaden Jackson, David Stone, whoever, just go forward and sack the quarterback, and that changes what Lane Kiffin's going to have to do. But my assumption is he's not going to say, all right, Trinidad, we're going to do some 5 and 7 step drops. I mean, you're going to see a lot of 1-2 ball out down the field, because that's or in some screen stuff. I mean, I think Oklahoma, as Alan mentioned earlier, dictates what's going to happen on that field, and Lane has to adjust for that. Now, we haven't seen Oklahoma have to change too much. They didn't change. They haven't changed. Honestly, they haven't changed against anybody, right? I mean, you could argue he should have changed against Texas, but they really held Texas down better than other teams have, honestly. I guess maybe except for Kentucky. Kentucky really kind of kicked their ass all day long, just lost. So I'm not, from a defensive side, I don't see a single reason why you just don't press your advantage and say, we're not going to give you underneath quick stuff. Be with God on that side. And then on the other side, I think you start seeing a lot more what they did against South Carolina. They start putting tight end usage not in line. They have them offset, or they have them in the H-back, have them in the backfield. And then you start doing some down blocking and say, your job is just to down block and get out of the way. Like, the down block is just meant for the defensive end not to come screaming down. And it's just like, you just run over there and just be in his way. Like, just get them out of the need of the play. Now, Helms, I think, had the block that sprung Torrey Blaylock for his touchdown run, so he was doing a little bit better. But having them just be down blockers to then run inside zone, so you don't have to worry about them holding up 1-to-1 or in a zone, it does seem to be extremely beneficial for this team.
The Spirit Shop has been Norman's source for wine, beer, and spirits since 1976. We feature the biggest selection and best prices in town. Thousands of different wines, beers, spirits, and more. Live in Norman, we deliver all over town, every day, usually in under an hour. Let us bring the party to you. Go to our website and order online at www.thespiritshop.org or give us a call at 405-321-3100. That's 405-321-3100. In from out of town for the game? Come see us at the corner of Main and Berry, just 2 miles east of I-35. Take the Main Street exit and browse thousands of fine wines and hard-to-find bourbon in store.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that be the case, then this sounds like, okay, this is just going to be a game that's going to be won by OU's defense in terms of making tackles in the open field. I mean, isn't that what offensive geniuses would want to get OU's defense into a situation of? Is because, I mean, the one time that OU's lost a game, the big, I guess, takeaway, other than John Mateer and the offense sucked that day, was OU's got some guys that missed some key tackles. I mean, Alan, you brought up the stat right before we started recording. What was it? The tackle rate percentage?
Oh yeah, it's like in the 85% tackle success rate. That's about middle of the pack in the country.
I mean, is that surprising considering how good the defense is? I mean, how are we supposed to interpret that?
I mean, I actually think it's pretty good. Like, use tackle rate in the past has been atrocious. I mean, literally at times one of the worst in the country. So I guess from that perspective, it's a lot better. I think that this is pretty good. I mean, keep in mind too, sometimes if especially like in the backfield, for example, Lenore Sellers, okay, you're missing a tackle there, but you're slowing them up to let somebody else come up and make a play, that type of thing. So, I mean, I think it's fine.
Well, okay. Well, if you can't find this out immediately, then no worries, but I'm just curious. I mean, if it's a middle of the pack number, but OU has the number 2 SP plus rated defense in the country.
They also have the number 2. Let me see here. The number 2 stop rate as by Max Olson. So I think what you're running into, because I see what you're saying. You're like, how do you sparse out being so great on defense, but also being middling in the pack tackling? The issue is, I mean, the solve for that is Brent Venables rarely puts players to make one-on-one tackles. It is usually 5 dudes.
Yeah.
And so it's like hit. Finally, he gets taken down. I mean, Oklahoma is wave after wave after wave. Now, where the issue happens is if you get it past the defensive line and get it past the linebackers, then it's like, okay, a cornerback and a safety. There's only 2 guys then. So if you keep putting stuff in front of OU defenders, they're great at swarming. It's fantastic to see like a ball carrier is getting hit like 3 times. Like it's punishing. It's not. It's very like what we saw in the Texas game was those Texas defenders are like Velcro, like boom down. I mean, they're good at that. Oklahoma's good at just hitting you until you fall down.
So looking at the number 1 defense in the country is Ohio State. Or probably they're number 2. I think Texas might be 1, but Ohio State's 2. They have a tackle success rate of 90%, ranking 9th. So, I mean, keep in mind, we're talking about 4 percentage points difference between 9th overall and the national average. So, I mean, it's also a matter of gradation here, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but this is OU and we demand perfection. And you lose one game this year and it happens to be against Texas. It happens to be against a pretty down Steve Sarkisian Texas team, a very gettable Texas team. And again, other than the John Mateer factor, it was just Robert Spears-Jennings missed tackle here, R. Mason Thomas missed tackle there, and that's kind of the big memory of that.
But like, what if the other thing though too is like if that's your game plan, right? That you're going to try to get OU guy in open field and miss tackles. I mean, Texas was able to take advantage of that, I think, twice really, and you know, if that's what the game plan is and you're able to get twice, like in a game where you don't get a punt return touchdown and 3 picks from OU, like big whoop, you know, I mean, it's like you got it twice. That's it. That's not, you know, like that's kind of built into the equation, I guess.
Yeah. Like I don't expect OU to have a game where they don't miss a tackle, but all this was just a big buildup to like, I'm glad you brought up like I mean, you know, they only had 2 against Texas, but Texas's offense sucks. Ole Miss's offense doesn't. So I would imagine Lane Kiffin wants to get OU's defense into those one-on-one situations, and he will just assume that my guy will make the play over your guy more time, like enough times, maybe not more times than not, but enough times because maybe he doesn't have enough confidence in OU's offense to match them, you know? So again, I think whoever wins this game is going to win comfortably, whether it be OU or Ole Miss. And I'm still like going back and forth on who I think it is. I think a lot of these numbers that we've talked about are telling me to pick OU, but this is a different type of team than what we've played this year. It would be the first time that we would probably see an instance where I know the offense technically did it against Michigan, but the defense got that game into such a situation that in the second half, I'm like, Michigan's not moving the ball or scoring against this team like at all. And so there was just opportunity after opportunity for John Mateer and the offense to go out there and just simply extend the lead, and that's what they did. But against Ole Miss, against Tennessee in these games, this would be the opportunity for the offense to truly like show that it's developed, that it's really hit a stride under Ben Arbuckle 7, 8, 9 games into his experience as the offensive coordinator. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for and looking for, because defense travels. The defense is great. Like there's no question marks there except for kind of in the secondary, but really the big question here, Peyton, is just what can we expect from John Mateer moving forward? Because if we all remember, the original return date for him was going to be either South Carolina or Ole Miss. We talked to him like Sooners on SI, all the media, like I was up there on Monday, and he still had like the KT tape on. He has like a scab on his, like where the surgery was. He had mentioned that a lot of his kind of comeback really early against Texas had more to do with his control freakness and how he didn't really mean this in an insulting way, but he looked at it as like, I have to go in and save the day because I am John Mateer and I'm the captain and I'm like the leader of this team. And in retrospect, he probably still would have played, but he would have gone in, I think, with a different attitude of, I have trust in my guys to also make plays. I don't need to do everything. I don't need to like look around and try to find the play. I can just like, no, I'm just going to do my job. And Deion Burks is going to do his, or Satani is going to do his. So maybe that experience against Texas was necessary for him to figure that out, because if there was any like flaw with Mateer, it's just that the gunslinger mentality works, and it works well at times. It also kicks you in the ass. So, I mean, maybe we could see a more fully realized John Mateer few more weeks after the surgery and kind of coming back from that humbling experience against Texas?
Honestly, I think I would twist that or adjust that frame of reference ever so slightly. Texas taught him that you can't make every throw and that you need to slow down and look at what's happening in front of you.
Yeah.
South Carolina game then taught him, oh, I don't have to do everything. All right. Because Oklahoma won pretty comfortably with him not playing statistically that well of a game. Right. He did not rush all that well. And he just kind of, 150 yards passing or something like that. I mean, it's not like
season low.
It's not like he completely blew up the thing. So South Carolina proves Oklahoma can win without him doing everything. Texas hopefully proved to him, this offense is open. I just need to make the right reads. There's the pups on that side. So to me, that's how I would frame it. And that's how I'm choosing to frame it. There are no losses. Like I think I mentioned it when I was breaking down his film from Texas. There are no losses. There's just opportunities of improvement, yada, 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 right? The Kaizen 1% better every day type of a thing. Against that game where we're thinking, oh man, we're just completely getting shut down. And I know we're talking about Texas some more, but you had guys wide open. I mean, you literally had guys wide open, and his clock was so sped up because my assumption is because he wasn't on the practice field getting those live game reps, and he gets his first live game reps in 17 days against the number one defense in college football. So, it's just kind of a shitty thing that happened. In South Carolina, you can tell Ben Arbuckle just said, shut it down. We're going to do this. And then once they could run the football, it became, oh yeah, sure. Let's just do this. There's no reason. It felt like the 2023 Michigan team when they realized they did not have to throw the ball. It's like, oh, cool. We're done here. We're just not going to do it. It was done and done. There's no reason to take a shot. There's no reason at all unless it's just wide open, like that really cool Satania little stop.
I love that play. The punt to the sideline, and then the guy just streaks down the boundary. Like, I love that play.
Well, he set a fake pick, and then he went off the pick into a So it was really kind of interesting. It reminded me of that Lincoln Riley play against TCU. I think it's Michael Jones, where he kind of like jogged in the first part of the route to the flat, and then he ran a slant inside, and he's just completely wide open because the defensive end stopped following him.
Big 12 championship?
Yes. So it's really kind of interesting to see that. Really quickly, I want to see this. This is much to do about nothing, but it's pulled up really quickly. Ben Arbuckle's first year as an offensive coordinator, I believe it was 2023 at Washington State. Where did Washington State, don't look it up, what was Washington State's final SP Plus offensive rating?
Was it in the 30s?
Yeah, I'd say 30 or 40.
39, which is currently what Oklahoma is right now. So it's just kind of one of those whole like numerology things, but it's just kind of something he's got to work it out. And then I think that the next year is much, much higher, but it's just kind of the thing of needing to work your way through it.
Yeah. I mean, Lincoln Riley had to work his way through it, but I mean, he had Baker Mayfield and the makings of a bunch of NFL guys on that offense in 2015, but it still took them like the same amount of time to really hit their stride. But I mean, also fortunately for them, and I know they played those ranked teams at the end of the year, and those teams like Baylor's defense was pretty good. TCU's defense was, of course, very good. Oklahoma State, I can't remember. I'm sure their defense was fine, but the big headline in those games was all those teams had backup quarterbacks. So it was a little bit easier for OU to navigate that in terms of not being afraid of the other team being able to match their explosiveness. But all that being said, it still took Lincoln and Baker 6-7 weeks to really get the ball rolling. And even then 2016, and some of that was just because they started off with a really good Houston team and then Ohio fucking State. At that point, that's when it became like Baker Mayfield, Lincoln Riley, super offense that you can't stop from that point on. So I guess it's right in line, right? Because what was their offense in his second year, Peyton?
22nd. So market improvement, but you see the stare. It's not like a fifth. All right. So, I mean, and that was something that when OU fans, when they hired him, they're like, well, he was just kind of a good offense, not a great offense. Like, so you're hoping that him having access to OU style players would mean that next year is in the teens or something like that, top 10. Especially if you get John Mateer back, which let's just assume you are.
Yeah.
Mm.
Man, I mean, because one of the things I have to do for Sooners on SI is I have to listen to Ben Arbuckle's press conference, transcribe it a little bit, then write a story. So, like, of course, I've always known he was young because I've said a zillion times he's the first major OU coach that's younger than I am. So that makes me feel very odd. But listening to him talk, it's not just his voice. Like, he still sounds young. It's just kind of the way he answers questions. He's very like, he always answers like his questions with yeah, like he's still very like jubilant and enthusiastic and youthful. And when Lincoln Riley got the job in 2015, I mean, he had been around the block at Tech as a position like grad assistant, assistant coach, and then he was the OC at East Carolina, and then he got the job at OU. So Lincoln had been like matured as an offensive coach by the time he got to OU, but even then he still had to learn. And so with Ben Arbuckle, like he's I guess way ahead of schedule, Alan, but still I guess to expect greatness right off the bat, even with your quarterback that you've known for 3 years. I think we talked about even in the offseason, it's not going to be a machine like day one, especially in this conference. It's going to be a learning process, and it's kind of played out that way.
Oh yeah, and we also got to take into account the personnel, right? I mean, we've kind of talked about it ad nauseum, but the offensive personnel right now, Lincoln Riley was working with NFL dudes. I don't see a ton of those in this lineup right now. You know what I mean? So, like when it comes to just the ability to really maximize what you can do, you know, sometimes when you got when you've got what you're working with, 39th overall is pretty good. Now that's not OU standard, obviously, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, and again, like we've already mentioned, they've got some opportunities against some not awful defenses, but they're not great defenses like they've seen already this year in these next few games. So maybe that number can climb a little bit. Maybe they have more opportunities to showcase what they're capable of in an ideal situation. And there's going to be a game where everything works out for OU. That's not happened yet. So that's going to come. It happened last year against Alabama. So who knows? This wasn't on the list for the rundown, guys, but it'll be an easy topic. I forgot to put it on there, but how happy are we that finally it's Torrey Blaylock and Xavier Robinson? I mean, seriously, it's why did it have to take this long? Oh, I know why, but we don't need to go that way because we're happy. We're happy the two best backs are finally playing. Peyton, I mean, understanding that it really comes down to the offensive line and Derek Simmons, Heath Ozida, we talked to them on Monday after practice, and they stressed that it was purely a physical thing with them of we were not physical enough. It wasn't a mental thing. We weren't blowing assignments. We were not having guys like pass off guys to the wrong spot or going through the wrong gap or anything like that. It's just purely like we were not physical enough against Texas. We were not physical enough against Auburn. But again, those defenses and particularly those defensive lines, it's hard to be physical against them because they're really fucking good. But they took it upon themselves to challenge themselves all week going into South Carolina, who had, they've got talent on their defensive line, and a lot of their talent only got to play 5 or 6 snaps, thanks to Jaron Kanik. Hopefully Dylan Stewart's okay. But knowing that it's going to be incumbent upon them to open up the holes for Torrey Blaylock and Xavier Robinson, I mean, are you satisfied with this running back room? Because this is OU, and we all have memories of great running back play, and I think Torrey's a good player. I think Xavier Robinson's a good player. I don't think that they're there yet, but I think that they're good enough. And I like this is the first time that I've really liked the running back rotation, if it's just going to be those two guys, since maybe like the Lincoln Riley days.
I mean, is it not just physical? Right? I mean, is it not just
you mean with the offensive line?
Healthy? I mean, well, you're talking about just like now we finally know the running back rotation. I mean, Xavier Robinson wasn't healthy until the Texas game, right? I mean, he had a shoulder thing, the collar, but it was like hamstring thing, shoulder something, and then
shoulder
thing, and then finally Barnes is. They want to hold on to him because of pass blocking, but his injury moved him out of the functionality of the offense. All right. You don't have to worry about putting him out there for pass blocking and then also have to run with him so it doesn't totally give away your offense because he's just not out there anymore. So, I mean, for their side of it, it does, for the running back rotation, it does feel like health. But for offensive line, I mean, I was hearing that we had like what 2 to 3 guys dealing with high ankle sprains going into Auburn, and they weren't able to anchor down. And it's kind of like, well, sure, that's what everybody says. Everybody's banged up. You got to tape it up, but it's also just the reality of football. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes you're not going to be healthy, and you're not going to be able to be as physical as you'd like to, right? Because you can't physically do it, right? Now, there's a thing about being physical. I guess there's two separate. I guess there's like I'm about to get a slight Spurs thing. There's a difference between being physical and then, as Coach Pop would say, show me some nasty, right? There's one thing about saying I'm going to execute and push hard and stuff like that, and I've got plenty of tape where I just saw the offensive line is kind of like barely pushing somebody on the pull. It's another thing when you're doing the pull, you come around and you just like bury your head into their chest, right? And you drive them to the ground. So it does seem like Oklahoma football is transitioning to more of the give me some nasty as opposed to just being physical, right? I mean, Oklahoma's had physical offensive lines, but there's like furniture movers, as the Red Dirt Sport would say. Just big old boys who move you somewhere. But it's not necessarily like we're going to move you somewhere, and as we do it, we're also kind of punching you in the head. I mean, so I think Oklahoma now is starting to maybe turn that corner, if that's what they're saying. And it was less about guys missing blocks, because in 2024 they just missed blocks. I mean, people were hurt, so like that, but they're just missing stuff. Yes. And in 23, they were just missing stuff. Especially the zone blocking thing did not work. Like they were, Guyton could not figure it out. He would just move off to the left to block nobody multiple times in the game because he was told zone left, go left. Right? I mean, there was some stuff that just was not happening. They're doing a little more hat on hat. They're doing more gap stuff. So they're in the way. They're there more often. But I could see that. I mean, you could say Oklahoma wasn't being physical enough, that they were. There is a style of blocking. I'm not an offensive line coach, so who knows what the hell I'm talking about. But I do know there's like a couple different ways of thinking about it. One is like receiving. The other one is like pushing, basically. And that some of the offensive guards and stuff were in that more of like receiving side of it. Kind of like you're doing an RPO, like an RPO style blocking. Like you can't shoot off the ball, because if you shoot off the ball and then you throw the pass, you're getting a penalty. So it's like you have to kind of like hold a block. If Oklahoma is now moving towards shooting off the ball, and who cares if you get 1 or 2 downfield penalties, I think that's a net benefit than everyone trying to make sure you kind of take a half step back and then manage the play. And I don't have the numbers in front of me. I can't pull anything up right now. I updated my operating system. It's jacked up my API stuff. But I would assume Oklahoma necessarily hasn't been running a ton of RPO as of late.
Yeah, I think you're right in terms of just. I'll have my fun with DeMarco Murray, but yeah, I mean, Xavier Robinson was banged up early on in the year. That's what they've said. Although he did play in, I think, every game except one, or make an appearance in every game except one. So I guess he was okay enough to do that, but whatever. We still have to play Javonte Barnes, but whatever. We ultimately got to the part where we wanted to be, which was Torrey Blaylock and Xavier Robinson after game 1, where it was very apparent that Torrey is the best back. And we all know and remember what Xavier did last year. I mean, I don't know, Alan, do you like when X gives it to you?
Yeah. Oh, indeed. As a,
good.
Yeah. No, I think that they complement each other pretty well, with their running styles. I think is one of the big things there. And I felt like we've really only seen the offensive line, like the real true 5, like really 2 games, right? Like Michigan and South Carolina, because I mean Simmons was out after I think about 20 snaps against Texas, and I have no idea if he's like the straw that stirs the drink for the line or something like that, but it did get noticeably worse and less efficient after he was out. So I mean, I guess you're seeing a lot of stuff all coming together at once. Plus, Torrey Blaylock, I think we talked about this on the paywall show, but I mean, this was his 7th game on a college level. I mean, maybe he's starting to kind of see the field a little bit better and understand what they're trying to do offensively, how they're trying to set things up a little bit better and using that. I mean, what little I could tell from the broadcast, I mean, he was seeing the holes pretty well, as well as any back that OU's had this season at least. And, I mean, given that like I said, he's only played 7 games, that's either a really bad sign for the other guys or a really good sign or a promising sign for him.
And I just remembered with the DMX reference, I can't remember who the patron is, so I apologize if you're listening, because I tried to go through some of our last few posts and comments, but someone mentioned on the Patreon page, Alan, that they were like, it's taken them this long to realize that you're like the hip hop expert on the show.
Well, I don't know if I go that far. I guess because I went to see Freddie Gibbs. I guess I don't know.
I think within context of the 4 of us, you would be the hip hop expert.
Yeah, no, I guess that's probably a fair point.
And if Matt, if you're listening, you're like, no. Matt, if you're listening and you're like, no, I am the hip hop expert. Well, guess what? You're at the basketball game. It's football season, my man. Like, basketball season doesn't start until the in-season tournament. Am I right, guys?
Is that the NBA Cup?
Yeah, the NBA Cup or whatever. See, it's so important that I remember it by a different name. It's big time. I think it happens around the time OU and OSU play their game. So, oh well, in December. I guess one more thing, and this is just kind of like a quick little run through for Ole Miss, because I've heard people talking about it, and I couldn't remember some of these matchups. But just for those out there that are curious, I'll give you a quick rundown of Lane Kiffin's history versus OU and or Brent Venables. Unfortunately, Lane Kiffin was the passing game coordinator and the wide receiver coach in the 05 Orange Bowl. We don't need to talk any more about that, okay? That was a bad night for everybody. Alan, where'd you watch that game?
From the stands of Joe Robbie or Pro Player or whatever.
You were there?
I was there. I was gone by about a couple minutes into the third quarter, but I was there.
How long were you there for?
Yeah, it was it was not fun.
Was it 38-7 at halftime or 31-7, something like that?
I mean, gosh, man, I don't know. I stayed, that was when Ashley Simpson performed at halftime.
Oh yeah.
And it was I mean, whew, it was rough. And this is 20 years ago, right? So like cell phones weren't the same either, right? So I'm trying to like call my buddy who drove us there because he's sitting in a different place with his wife. And I'm like trying to get through, like, let's get out of here, man. And so finally I see him walking down the concourse, like, or out around the kind of like, lower level. And he's looking all around for me, like, and I'm like waving at him, like flagging him down. And he's like, he points to the exit. I'm like, yeah. It's some jackass stays up. He's like, you guys aren't real fans. I'm like, you want to sit here and watch this, man. You spend, that's how you want to spend your time. That's fine, man. I'm beating the traffic. This
was
sucks.
It an OU fan?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure that was the same type of fan that would routinely say that Bob Stoops saved us from the 90s, so he could do no wrong. Moving on. I watched that game in TLF, which in military terms, that's temporary lodging facility, because we had just moved into the air base at Mountain Home, Idaho at the time. And yes, that means I lived in Idaho. I just moved to Oklahoma right before the Fiesta Bowl against Boise State. My life is hell. But I watched that game on a tiny little TV in TLF with my dad, and whatever it was, 38-7. I'll never forget my dad at halftime was like, well, if they can score 31 points, so can we. It's like, oh man. I mean, did that just make you go like, I'm just never going to watch this sport again, or I'm never going to watch an OU game again? Because like I was 14 and it really shook my faith in football God, but clearly I kept going.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kept going, I mean, longer than I should have. I was there when Sam Bradford got his shoulder dislocated against BYU. I was, I was there when, Von Miller was cramping up on 80% of the plays that Texas A&M had when they trying to slow down OU's offense. I mean, I've been to plenty. So no, but that team, the thing is like that USC team, the OU's defense was so uber focused on Reggie Bush that like everybody else just had a field day. It was like open the floodgates, man. You'd see Bush go in motion and like three guys follow him. I was just saying like what are you doing?
Emotion fucking up a Brent Venables defense, I see.
And Bo Pelini, let's be fair.
No, that and also that USC team is up there with 01 Miami.
Yeah.
If you're just talking about BCS era,
yes.
it pisses me off with the Texas thing of like, Vince Young defeated USC. He beat a bastardized version of the team OU had to play the year before. I want to fucking hear it. Lose me with that. That USC team is incredible. Plus, I mean, just pinpoint passing all over the place.
Leinart was absolutely in his bag that night, man. That was just.
Peyton, do you recall where you were watching that game? Did you watch it at all? Did you have a feeling?
I was in the. So I'm kind of obviously. I mean, I'm a latecomer to an Oklahoma football fan. My parents did not go to college. We did not. We weren't. Grew up in the area. Most of everything I ever knew about, like city-wise or something, was going down to Dallas. My great grandmother lived in Hurst, Texas. So everything was about me was getting the Metroplex, Dallas area, stuff like that. Like we needed to go somewhere and do something. We went to Paris, Texas. So the idea of Oklahoma City, Norman did not enter into my mind in any real way, shape, or form until 2007, when I watched the A&M Oklahoma game, I believe, maybe in 06, but it was one of those games. Had a friend had tickets, and we're like, yeah, sure, let's go up there. And that was the first game I'd watched in person. Now I was aware of a fan that's like that, but I was in the kitchen of Creed Nathan, one of my high school friends. We're in his kitchen. We're just kind of watching it. And then I think at the end of the first quarter, I was like, yeah, let's go do something else. We were like, let's just go turn the GameCube on. Let's play Animal Crossing. I mean, it was like, let's do literally anything else but this. Like, this doesn't seem to be fun to do at this point in time. So a lot of my sports fandom is really driven about, like, I'm way more into it now, obviously, on a podcast and I write about it and stuff like that. It's a little bit different. I don't watch, there was funny on Red Dirt's Discord. They're saying, I was like, yeah, I watch the OU game, and then I go do stuff. And they're like, what? You don't sit down and watch the games all day long? I'm like, no, I watch the OU game, and I go do all the other stuff I have to go do. And I'm a little bit different on that. But ever since the 2013 Game 6 Spurs Miami, sports just don't really hurt me as bad anymore on that. So I've just kind of left it to the side. I don't let it hurt me that way. So if it's going bad, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'll check the replay. I'll go have a fun time.
Yeah, I remember just feeling like I was in prison because, like I said, I just moved to Idaho. In fact, that was my first day of 8th grade because I went to school that day with a big OU Orange Bowl hoodie, and all these kids that some of them were just from Idaho and some of them were Air Force kids were like, "Oh, you're an Oklahoma fan? That's awesome!" And like, yeah, we're gonna win tonight, and then. I couldn't go outside. I couldn't go hang out with friends. I didn't have any at the time. So I just felt like I was in prison. But all that, let's move forward. Let's get away from the Orange Bowl. Lane was also the OC at Alabama when they beat Venables and Clemson in the 2015 or the 2016 national championship when Clemson couldn't stop O.J. Howard, got him drafted. Lane was famously let go, relieved of his duties after they had already won a playoff game in 2016's playoff run because he had accepted the FAU job. And also I think Saban was just tired of his shit and tired of him hitting on assistant coaches' daughters. I don't know. This is Joey Freshwater. It's all out there for you to read. But he was relieved of his duties before Clemson and Bama played in that rematch that Clemson won. And the OC that day was Steve Sarkisian. Things have changed. Lane Kiffin came to Norman for the first time as the head coach of FAU when he lost 14-63 to Kyler Murray. Chris Robinson was the FAU coach for all the OU recruiting fans out there. I'm sure you remember his picture. And then, of course, last year, Kiffin beat Brent and OU 26-14. This is a weird stat, but it was just, just follow along with me.
26-14 was the final score. 26 points tied Ole Miss's season low in scoring in a win. They lost 3 games last year, and they scored 17 points in 2 of those losses. I believe they scored more than 26 points in that other loss. So OU and Brent Venables, they've got a little bit of a history of corralling Lane Kiffin's high potent offense. And while they're really good this year, I tend to think that the one last year was better. And you're playing on the road with Jackson fucking Arnold. So again, all these numbers, all these stats, all these things are telling me Brady, pick OU. But we're not there yet. We do want to get to one patron question that I thought was very, 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 very good. So I thought let's just make this a little bit of a topic on the free show on Tuesday. And this comes from what I can only assume is the actual Barry Switzer, because that's how the patron goes by, is just Switzer. So thank you to our patron named Switzer. But he asked us, gentlemen, or he brought up the point that our point differential for Baker and Kyler's years was 14 points. And so for Baker's, it was 44-30. And for Kyler's, it was 52-38. God. And then he asked us, what do we prefer? A 14-point differential with record-breaking offenses, or what we have, a 19-point differential with a defense that OU is famous for? So Peyton, I will start with you. How would you combat that question?
Well, 1,000% what we have right now. I mean, it's frustrating, right? I mean, obviously, to see some execution stuff happening, but I guess it's two ways, right? I don't know. I like physical football. I like watching it.
Yes.
I like seeing guys get hit. It's just that way, right?
Yes.
I've mentioned it many a times before. That 23 Michigan team, I was like, this is, if every team could be this, I would be more than excited to watch this. Like, just dudes just running into each other super hard. So I like watching Oklahoma be good, like physically good, unless it being about we schemed up a guy, and this, like, you're seeing what happens down in Austin. Like, once a dude starts losing that fastball ever so slightly, right? About how you scheme, it happens, and then now all of a sudden, the meathead, which is college football, because you don't get a chance to spend as much time on it as you do in NFL, usually prevails. So I think I like seeing Oklahoma be the I don't know, the reason for its success, I guess.
Yeah. Alan, you see it the same way?
Well, I mean, as a fan, I think I like this better. I mean, one way to think about it is like OU right now, let's see here, the differential, right, is they're averaging 29-9, right? So it's about 20 points in a 38-point game. I mean, so nearly 50% difference, I guess, would be the way to look at it, right? Whereas
that Temple win is doing a lot of work.
Yeah. Fair enough.
For the scoring.
Yeah. But I mean, the combined points back in like 2017, 2018, I mean, that was like 72 and 80 or something like that. I mean, like, that was just the 2018. It was as fun as it was to watch Kyler Murray. Every time that defense went out on the field it was just miserable. Just miserable. I mean, so like, as a fan, I'll take this. I like the aesthetics of the physical football better. I like the idea that, I mean, defense is what travels, I mean, I think that it's funny. I think that if you're looking for, like, a chance to get a team that can win 9 or 10 games a lot, you're going for offense, right? But if you want to really compete at the highest level, you really need that defense that OU has right now.
And also, like I just mentioned, as someone who likes to go and do other things, a 2.5-hour game is way better than a 3.5-hour game. I mean,
yeah. Can you imagine like being a Wisconsin fan or something like that?
It's just being horrible and being that long.
No, I mean, look, for the most part, having the killer offense is fun when you're playing the average to bad teams, because there's like very little stress at all. That doesn't mean that OU never lost to some of those teams, because they certainly did a few times. But the thing with the offenses and the shitty defenses, when you played the good teams, it was almost inevitable. So it made it so. I mean, the 2017 Texas game is a great example. That Texas team was not very good at all. and it was 17-0. And it was just like, yeah, OU's going to roll this team. And of course they had to win 28-27 or 27-26 in that game. And it just felt inevitable that this crappy defense, which in their defense in that game, Obo Oronquo got held every fucking play and they never called it. And that is the only reason why they got back into the game. But oh well. But it was just like the inevitability factor was really hard. I mean, the Rose Bowl game is the inevitability factor really sucked. So yeah, the correct answer is the defense. It's just kind of frustrating that, man, the offense should be a little bit better. And
so long as you don't have to watch a quarterback like the one that OU was playing with last year, like I'll take a great defense.
Auburn might decide the same thing. Like we don't want to watch Jackson Arnold anymore. See what they're going to do. Maybe Hugh Freeze will get the vote of confidence publicly. And that conversation reminds me of back in the old Keyhole days when I would routinely bring up those crappy defenses, because that was just in the rearview mirror at the time. This podcast started in 2020. Inside OU started in 2018 or 2019. So we're talking about those crappy defenses at the time. But it does remind me that former Sooner DJ Ward, I think, I don't know if he listens to the show anymore, but he did at that point. And he had a very, very, very good attitude about it, because I kept bringing up that play in the Rose Bowl where he missed Jake Fromm. And it just a reminder that while those defenses overall were not good, there were some good players, and really there were some good people on them. So I just want to throw that out there. DJ Ward, if you're still playing or if you're still listening, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's all about the friends we made along the way.
Exactly. And thank you, Mr. Switzer, our patron, patreon.com/throughthekeyhole. So again, if you want to be a patron, you can ask us questions like that. Maybe we'll talk about them on the show. Let's get to the predictions by the Spirit Shop in Norman, brought to you by the Spirit Shop in Norman. Peyton, you're the only one who hasn't written his down on the document. So I'm going to ask you, because the suspense is killing me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I think it will be OU 27, Ole Miss
35,000. Okay.
No, I'm trying to think of I'm working my way through it because they are a good offense. Let's say Oklahoma 27, Ole Miss 24. Oklahoma does not cover.
Ooh. Does the under still stay undefeated? What is it?
Oh, I would assume that would be an over, but maybe not.
What was the final? What was the final score?
I said 27-24. So
that would be
51. Under.
Yeah.
I just don't think anyone's ever getting 30, and I don't think Oklahoma's scoring 30.
The total in this is 54.
Ooh. I like it. Alan, what do you got?
I got the Sooners. I think it's going to be a cover. I got them at 27-20 OU. Also an under.
Nice.
Look at that.
Seems more realistic. Matt, he didn't give any insight as to how this score would happen, but I'm going to assume that he's going to say that Tate Sandell will be the king of the campus, because he has OU winning 24-23. So in my mind, it's 21-23 Ole Miss, and John Mateer's driving and gets Tate Sandell into field goal range, which is 60 yards. And then what's the record? Does anybody know the field goal record for OU, like off the top of their head? Which that's a dumb question to ask, but maybe that happens. So Matt's got 24-23 OU. Wouldn't you know it? An OU football fan podcast, and we all think OU's going to win, because I think the offense is finally going to have a very good day, because I am still subscribing to the thought that John Mateer sucked against Texas because he didn't practice for 17 days and was rusty as a result. And then like I said, the week up until the South Carolina game, I expect him to be better. He certainly was that. He didn't have to be Superman, but I think he will be called upon to be Superman here and there against Ole Miss in order to match some of their explosive plays. And I think that with the extra time, the extra practice, the extra repetition, now 2 games under his belt, I expect a much, much better John Mateer, much closer to Super Saiyan John Mateer for me, because I've got OU 38-20, because I don't know if Ole Miss is ready for that pass rush. I know Lane Kiffin's smart, and he's going to do what he can to get around that, but he couldn't really get around that last year. until it became very apparent Jackson Arnold couldn't do anything. And that offensive line was awful. Bless their hearts. Like some of them got better over time. But
the longest field goal in college football history is 69 yards.
Nice.
I cannot find Oklahoma's longest.
I think it's 62.
It is not 62.
Someone said it on somebody said it on a podcast a month ago. Once it became apparent Tate Sandell was pretty good.
Yeah. I'm looking at right now a list of the longest ones, and they stop at 61 yards, and Oklahoma still has been mentioned. So it has to be 60.
Tony DiRenzo's 60-yard field goal in the...
Oh, Tony DiRenzo. Yeah, Tony DiRenzo. I remember Tony. When was that?
Of course. In the 1970s, I'm going to have to Control F this bitch. Where are you, sir? Of course, it doesn't find it. It doesn't find it. Okay, here we go. Boom. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, the great blah, 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 blah. Okay. November 17th, 1973 was the year Tony DiRenzo, or Rienzo, I don't know how to say the last name. Sorry, apologies. Became just the second member of the 60-yard club. He nailed a 60-yard field goal in a 48-20 victory over Kansas. And my question is, why on earth did they kick a 60-yard field goal in a 48-20 win over Kansas? Just to try it?
Maybe he was like that one guy who used to have the record, who had like a stump for a foot that like wasn't.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, maybe it's something like that going on. I don't know.
Frank Boggs, which is an awesome name, who wrote for the Daily Oklahoman at the time, described the scene as they started to punt. However, wiser heads prevailed, and DiRenzo came out to try the longest field goal in Big 8 conference history. He backed up halfway to his native, so he's Brazilian. He backed up halfway to his native Brazil. He kicked with an 18-mile-per-hour south wind coming straight up the interstate from Sao Paulo. As the ball was traveling, folks got together to discuss whether it would be good. Some went out for cokes. Then, when everybody settled down again, the football did too, and a 60-yard field goal had just been booted. Tony then jumped 60 yards straight up in celebration.
Man, that's poetry, man. You got the...
That is some... Yeah, that's
some good stuff, yeah.
Y'all ever, read, old... what's his name? Grantland, like the old sports writer from the early 20th century. Have you ever read old sports stories? And it makes me feel like, man, I'm so boring whenever I write stuff.
But back then they could just write whatever they wanted. Like no one could watch the game.
Yeah, exactly. No one could fact check anything.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Notre Dame won, and they got destroyed. It's like the Four Horsemen. The Four Horsemen graduated 17 years ago.
Yeah, stick your thumb in the air or whatever. Oh yeah, the wind's about 18 miles an hour.
That's awesome. Okay, real quick with the college football world, because the whole story around the sport is everyone's getting fired. So for the OU fans out there, and I'm just talking about Lee and Grant Benson that have wish casted Curt Cignetti to OU. Nope. Well, OU keeps winning games, and too many big jobs are coming open. And when those big jobs come open, some of them will go after, the hot young assistant coach to be a first-time head coach. Other schools will go after sitting Power 4 coaches, which then opens up more Power 4 jobs. So I guess, first of all, guys, Billy Napier gets fired. Dillingham at Arizona State, Curt Cignetti at Indiana. Who else? But I mean, how are we feeling about the current coaching carousel at this point in time, Alan Kinney?
I think a lot of these schools are going to be disappointed with who they end up with, personally.
Ooh, okay. Obviously, with OU playing Ole Miss, I mean, we're already seeing, I think the Oklahoma breakdown is trying to, stir the pot in terms of, keep saying Lane Kiffin to Florida, get them to, get distracted or whatever. Steve Spurrier, I don't know. Was this a real quote? Because you never know with the internet, but Steve Spurrier said that, yeah, Florida would really like to go after Lane Kiffin. That's the name I've heard the most. But that's the simple answer, Alan or Peyton? Is that what's going to happen? And if so, does that help OU just an inch this week?
I don't know why, why would Kiffin want to leave? I mean, I get
access to resources, access to talent, and
sure,
Florida does it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think Florida needs a rebuild. He would like whoever takes this job is not going to have to like build it up unless they're like, I'm going to run it my way. If they just hire someone like Kiffin, he can just kind of come in and just be better as a head coach than Napier.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but Florida's not going to want him just to be better. They're going to want like national championships. And like, to be fair, that's a very fair expectation. I mean, I don't know. It seems to me like Lane Kiffin kind of likes the fact that he's kind of like unbothered at Ole Miss. You know what I mean? Like he kind of runs the show there, but I don't know. I don't think he'll end up taking that job personally.
Yeah, I mean, why would the guy who's been fired at every place he's been to, every big place he's been to, because he couldn't live up to it, do it again? I mean, he does seem like the way he jokes and the way he like on Twitter and stuff like that. He does kind of seem like he just knows who he is. Like, I mean, because he's a little more free or whatever, right? Like how he talks, like he just seems kind of like, yeah, that's just not for me. I mean,
yeah,
and he's got it. Yeah, I mean, he's over like the thing you're hearing. Because I think what people are hearing as a complete outsider is that they're hearing Lane Kiffin to Florida. I think what people are really hearing is Jimmy Sexton saying Lane Kiffin to Florida. And I think that's a much different conversation that Ole Miss is going to have with Lane Kiffin's agent from that side of it.
Yeah, I don't mean this in a disparaging light whatsoever, because especially since he's passed away, but Lane Kiffin is in the same category to me as like Mike Leach. I prefer Mike Leach, but all that to say, Lane Kiffin is where he kind of belongs. I don't think he should be running like definitely not a blue blood. I don't think he belongs as a head coach at a blue blood school. And while Florida isn't a blue blood school, there definitely is a program that in the last 20, 30 years has won national championships. And like Alan said, it's okay for them to have national title expectations because clearly when they have it all together, they're very good. And so I think Lane and Mike Leach, those types of coaches kind of belong in the tier under that one. And that's where Ole Miss is. Like they won a national title in 1969, but I mean, last year was like Lane's best team that he's ever had. And they went 9-3. And 2 of those losses were completely and utterly stupid. It's like, yeah, because that's kind of what he is. So
and like they don't expect him to go out and recruit in high school. You know what I mean?
I was going to say that too.
Yeah, that's for him. I don't get the impression he enjoys recruiting very much. So
yeah. And look, that doesn't mean that I think Lane is a bad coach, because clearly I think Mike Leach is a great coach. I think Lane Kiffin's a great coach, but there are tiers here, and I just think that he's at where he needs to be. And that, again, that doesn't mean that Ole Miss can't beat OU and people can clip that and say, huh, stupid OU fan, look what you know. I have watched OU football for a long time, and I've seen us lose to some shitty-ass teams and some shitty-ass coaches. It would not be the first time. Oh, well.
If Ole Miss finishes, guys? If Ole Miss finishes in the top 20, I think according to 24/7, they're currently 18th, I think. If they finish in the top 20 of recruiting, it'll be the first time they've done that. I'm in 2022, and they still haven't done the top 20 recruiting class. So I mean, he's high school recruiting in a way in which we all wanted Bob Stoops fired.
Yeah.
And they're just totally cool with it because obviously the portal's kind of unlocked their talent acquisition ability. But yeah, I mean, he needs to do the bare minimum of an SEC football team recruiting wise.
Yeah, I mean, they're a merchant school. They get portal merchants, and it's worked to some level of success, but not to the success that every winter and spring when the portal opens and closes, and then it's like Ole Miss wins the portal national championship and just, okay, you'll win 9 games. Cool. No, at some point, whoever's paying for that, is it Bunky Perkins, whoever's paying for a lot of these players, will probably get tired of not getting 10 wins or a playoff win or a national championship. Just like it'll happen in the next 5, 6, 7 years at Texas Tech. At some point the money will dry up. What about Dillingham, guys? Because I keep forgetting he's an Arizona State alum. He loves being there. And I mean, like seeing him after their game, which I think this is the second time Arizona State has rushed the field after they beat Tech this past, and that was a great win. Tech was a top 10 team. But man, they're like
jacking up the fine money to the Big 12 with the rushing the field, unless that's not a fine in the Big 12. But he's definitely a guy that last year when I was like, is Brent the guy? Should we move on? I really like Dillingham. I mean, he's probably like, if it's not going to be Cignetti, like Dillingham's going to be up high up on a lot of people's list, but can you pry him away from his, his alma mater?
That's a great question. I mean, if he's happy there, right, it's probably going to take something pretty substantial to pry him away. He's one that I like what I hear from him and stuff like that. The one thing that concerns me about him is that he's like done some tremendous work in like one score games, right? And a lot of times that can flip around on you, especially given, I mean, his teams with and without Sam Levitt, I mean, it's a different story. So he's one that I'm maybe not quite like I've kind of cooled on since last year, but I think, especially the guy, man, I mean, if you're a Penn State or whatever, maybe take a chance on him. Why not?
Any Dillingham thoughts, Peyton?
He's just a cool. He is a guy I like and I like listening to when he's talking about, you practice 7 to 5, you're going to get a 7-5 thing. Or when somebody talked about, we all in, he's like, well, there's Rangers to all in, and are we all in? Then Tech comes in and they're $20 million more all in than we are. Their team's a different all in. I'm like, and the media people are eating it up. Like I'm eating it. I'm like, man, he seems to have his head on his shoulder. But I was sitting in my mind going, man, if I'm 8-4 and I'm listening to this shit, I'd be pissed off. Right? It's like, man, Dave Aranda's really interesting until you start losing some football games, and then you're like, Coach, stop reading these books and start coaching a football team. But I think he has a mindset. To be honest with you, I had not thought about it in any way, shape, or form because I don't really think about Penn State coaching, other than someone saying, in a different Discord out, they should go get Freeman and he should leave Notre Dame. I think Kenny Dillingham at Penn State, where he could be like the tough guy, like we're here to play football type of a thing, I think that would do something. I'm not entirely sure, because James Franklin was like a total CEO, professional. I'm buttoned up. I'm doing the whole stuff. If they just get a quote unquote football guy in there, maybe it does finally get him over that hump. I could see it being disastrous as well.
No,
but maybe something gets you over the hump there.
They want mid-rule. That's who the Penn State wants, right? Or Cignetti. Like the dream is Cignetti, but like the realistic thought is Matt Rule, right? Who I know he was good at Temple and Baylor a long time ago, but Nebraska cares. Like if I'm a diehard Penn State fan, I'd be like, Matt Rule?
Yeah, no. his whole thing is really kind of fallen off the last few years once he got to Lincoln,
And you can especially assume that like Penn State fans are like, if they end up hiring Matt Rule, they'd be like, do not bring Dylan Raiola with you. Please. No, we'll find another quarterback. Please no Dylan Raiola. But that brings us to James Franklin. I wrote on the Monday post. You don't need to spend that much time on it. For our patrons, go check it out, patreon.com/throughthekeyhole. But James Franklin was on game day last Saturday. Nick Saban went through this spiel about how it's unfair that Franklin was fired because Franklin won all these games. He won the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, got to the semifinals of the playoff last year, and that they were ranked number 1. And that Saban's whole argument was, those are expectations that you created. And there's 2 ways to think about this. And Alan, I'll start with you because, again, I have my thought, but maybe I'm looking at it incorrectly. But there's 2 ways to look at this. One, the realistic way is like these coaches, they're humans and they care about their job security. So they do not care. They respect, but they do not care about Joe Paterno. They do not care about winning all those games in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s and all that stuff. They do not care about Bud Wilkinson's 47-game win streak, 3 national titles, Barry Switzer's 3 national titles, all that stuff. They're very like of what I've done. So I've won a lot of these games, and those are the expectations I set up, that I created. The other way to look at it is you are simply a caretaker. Penn State's not a blue blood, but they're like damn near up there. Like they're a football power. You know, if there's blue bloods at the top, then there's football powers at the like below them. So you're talking about historically Penn State, Florida State, Miami, Florida, not UCLA. Anyway, Penn State, their expectations are well founded to win national championships and to win big games, because that's what they did from like 1966 till Joe Paterno ended his career in shame. They won a lot of games. They won 2 national championships. They could have won 3, but OU stopped them in 85. But those are the expectations of the program. And it's, Alan, it's when the coaching success or lack thereof does not meet up with that program success that I get like this better than most, Bob Stoops, 2010s, I'm angry kind of memories. So I love Nick Saban, and I usually like clap along with most of the shit he says. But when he said that, I was like, I mean, Nick, you're a unicorn. You cannot equate what you've done with other current or, contemporary coaches, because it's not the same. You created a new expectation at Alabama that already had great expectations, because you're a unicorn. But for Bob, for Brent, for James Franklin, it's like the program has expectations, not just you, not just the ones that you created in your time. And if they don't match up with those expectations, the monster will eat you. And Penn State's monster ate James Franklin.
Well, to be fair to Nick Saban, right? Like, he's brought this up before, and I think he has a very good point insofar as, like, he would talk about how, after a while, it was across college football. Oh, winning a conference title isn't good enough anymore. Like, it's not considered a good enough season if you don't win a national championship. And he's not just talking about Alabama. I mean, he's talking about kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I know Brady himself would Bob Stoops would say, first steps to win the Big 12. It's like,
well, yeah,
fuck that.
but yeah,
Well,
but
it's the first step. But when you've already forfeited your fucking chance to win a national title because you blew it in the regular season to some shitty teams, or you happened to play Ohio State and embarrassed yourself, I don't care about winning the Big 12. It's like, great, that is the bare minimum, but it should be viewed as a first step to something greater. And time again, they never made it a first step to something else. It was just the end, and that was the frustrating part.
Yeah, but you're also saying time and time again, right? And I think, to me, that is the key point here with James Franklin, with all these coaches. Like, I think that when I look at it, like with Bob Stoops, the whole better than most thing, like, I think that people or fans probably underestimate how hard it is to be that successful for that long. And they start to think at times with some programs, like, this is easy. Like, we get somebody else and they'll do this. And then, Texas fires Mac Brown and has to go through a Charlie Strong and a Tom Herman until they get to a Sark who's, I mean, my larger point here is, I think the bigger issue is, like, when you hit a certain point and you keep getting there, it's so frustrating for fans. Like, it's a matter of seeing the same movie over and over and over and feeling like you're just not getting over the hump. You lose a lot of goodwill that way. I mean, to me it's kind of like, I think the issue is really Franklin probably just hit a shelf life and people were ready for something new at Penn State. And that's fine. But you should also, like, keep in mind, okay, so now what do we need to do next? What is the next guy? Who does the next guy need to be? What do we need to give him? Where was it that James Franklin wasn't getting over the hump? Do we really need to sign a coach to a 10-year, $110 million contract? Those are the kinds of things that I think that people need to be thinking about.
That has an escalator in it after every college football playoff, or just this one?
I don't know.
Because according to the stuff that came out now for Kurt Signetti, is after the 2025 college football playoff, and it made it seem like ones ever after that, he has to be paid at least
as much as the third highest making coach of the playoffs has to be paid at least that. And there must be a new negotiation every year that happens, if I'm reading that right, which is like, or he gets to walk free and everyone gets to wash their hands of it. So it's kind of like, good for you.
Wow. Well, I mean, like with Franklin, like when I was writing the post, like I had the general understanding that he sucked against like the better teams in the Big Ten. Like that's why he got fired. But I was really shocked how stark it was. And so like what I did was, what is his record against Ohio State and Michigan, no matter if they're ranked or not? Because there were 2 years where Michigan wasn't ranked, but those are the blue blood schools in the Big Ten. Those are the teams you measure yourself up against, whether they're ranked or not. What was his record against Ohio State and Michigan, and then whatever ranked Big Ten team he played? He was 9-25 against them, and you cannot tell me with Penn State's talent that they couldn't have gotten another one over like Michigan during this time or Ohio State, because Michigan, it took them a long time to get to to become the team that Peyton like dreams about every other night. It took Ohio State even a long time in the end of the Urban Meyer era into Ryan Day to become what they became last year. So that was just like, man, again, like programs and fans, you cannot be afraid to be better. If you've not hit your ceiling, like Bob won a national championship and that's great. He met the standard in that respect, but then we got further and further away from it, that it almost kind of became like a second career for him. And when you don't win that national championship as a head coach at a place like OU, you've not met the standard. So we get to this point of, okay, like we need to probably move on. But then there's pushback of like, well, he saved us from the 90s. You're too young to remember what it was like back then. And just because we get rid of him doesn't mean it's going to be better. It's like, yes, I knew that. Like I knew when Brent was hired that it might not work, but maybe it will. And that's the whole point of this, is you cannot be afraid to be better if you're a football school power or a blue blood program. And that's kind of my whole, I guess, philosophy on this whole sport is, once it becomes apparent that you're not the guy, you need to like make a change as quickly as possible, even though I know contracts and buyouts and all those things exist, but you need to make a change as quickly as possible. And just because you make a change, it doesn't guarantee that something good's going to happen, but it also doesn't guarantee that something bad's going to happen. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that was too much of my, I didn't mean for that to be a Bob Stoops better than most post when I wrote it, but.
So when did you figure out Stoops wasn't the guy? Because I think this does paint a picture.
I think I've mentioned it before.
Like 99, losing the Independence Bowl.
No, it was the end of the Florida game, and Florida was they needed to get one more first down to essentially ice the game. And even though they were up 10, but there was like this outside chance, and they get that first down, ices the game. Tim Tebow does like the Gator chomp to Nick Harris. And the camera like pans like over to Bob, like tight shot on his face. And he's like standing with his hands on his hips and he's looking up at the scoreboard. And he had this look on his face of just like pure frustration, but not like anger. And my dad watched that and he was like, he's never winning one again. And so maybe it's part of it is just my dad, but I remember him saying that, and I remember kind of agreeing with him. And 2009 was kind of a unfortunate disaster. Yeah. The Landry Jones era really like shook my faith as an OU fan. And then Better Than Most happened in 2014 after Baylor kicked our ass in Norman, and he said that shit. So it began with that Florida loss, because again, that's 3 national championship losses, and one of them was embarrassing so much that Allen left in the third quarter. And fortunately, he got to see Ashley Simpson, but he had to leave early, and that's on you, Bob. But it was that period. So, and look, I'm just a silly fanboy, so I can have my opinions just like you can think that I'm silly or have different opinions. That's what makes this all more fun.
I think there's something to say when not like as a fan. Like, yeah, I think there's something to say when you see a coach who no longer is putting in the same amount of effort. Because the first 10 years, Bob Stoops, I'll sit there and say, like, yeah, if you flip a coin and two of those games turn differently, we're looking at Bob Stoops. We're building the biggest statue of Bob Stoops we possibly humanly can.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah,
from that side of it.
I think
Toby
Keith,
the moment he just chilled out and started recruiting slowly and stuff like that, then an AD. They gave obviously Joe gave him slack until 2015. And it's like, all right, guy, we gotta,
but not enough, but not enough slack.
On that side, and maybe it's the same thing with the Penn State stuff. Like, there's so many things that happen with this style of things where they finally got rid of them, and maybe Saban is obviously talking about fan base. I think.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you're talking about like the ADs. Like, I'm tired of this dude. Like the Mike Gundy stuff. It's like people are like, we're just tired of him. Let's just go. Like, they should have got rid of him in 2020 when he did the OAN thing and the players revolted and the whole thing, and they didn't. They have a perfect offload and they just didn't take it because they felt beholden to him. And luckily for them, he stunk it up a few years later and they were able to, perfectly do it then. So, I mean, or Gary Patterson, the greatest coach in TCU history. Eventually, you just kind of piss people off.
Yeah,
have the ability to fire you.
And especially if you're a college football coach that makes it to the upper echelon of profession, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to piss a lot of people off along the way. Yeah.
No, I mean, I look at it in a unicorn fairy tale land ideal perspective where I believe the athletic director, whoever it is, should serve the program, not serve themselves or serve like the guy that they hired that brought them a lot of success, because ultimately, whether you're the head coach or whatever, you are just a caretaker. And if you're fortunate enough to be at OU or Texas or USC, Alabama, you're a caretaker for as long as you feed the monster. And the second that you stop feeding it, like, it will just eat you. So that's how I look at it.
Okay. But hold on. So we just had Kurt Signetti sign this huge contract, right, at Indiana. And Indiana's athletic director in doing that is serving the program, not just Kurt Signetti, right? Like, we can agree. I mean, Kurt Signetti is the best coach they've ever had. He's one of the best coaches, right? It seems to be in college football right now.
He's the best coach in college football. Absolutely.
I think he's way up there, right? So, they're signing him to a market rate deal. The problem is that, in 3 years, if you still owe him all that money, like, how do you square that with you're not really being, I don't know. It's not really so much about being beholden to him. It's that your school can't afford to just give somebody $60 million to go away. And so we can sit here right now and say, okay, well, it's a market rate deal or whatever. But, if you just let him walk right now, you're screwing the program. But but you're also having to tether yourself to him for so long and for so much money that there's not an exit ramp. There's no exits. There's no out there. Like,
yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, you're right, but I mean, Indiana's not they're nothing. Like, whoever their athletic director is just doing the right thing. If this was Michigan or Ohio State and Kirk Signetti and their athletic director, I mean, then I guess my thought would be different. Like, okay, like, it makes sense now. And as long as he continues this, then it all makes sense. But the second that he shows that maybe this was all kind of a fluke, then you need to start like unpacking it and start getting ready to offload, because it's Michigan and whatever. It's not Indiana. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
Well, it's not wrong. It's just the market, like, and that's, I mean, just realities of, being an athletic director and trying to manage what's essentially a hobby for, all these fans, right? Like,
yeah,
it's tough.
But it's real to me, damn it. Any final thoughts, guys? That was a fun show. It was long, but it was fun. Matt, it had nothing to do with the fact that you weren't here. It just happened to be a fun show. OU 6-1. They've got a top 10 opponent coming to Norman. It's supposed to be fun. That's what we signed up for. So it is what it is. But yeah, everybody, thank you so much for listening to Through the Keyhole. Don't forget to check out patreon.com/throughthekeyhole. Don't forget to check out keyholepod.com. Don't forget to leave us 5 stars ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Again, SEC Nation's coming to town. Go bring a Through the Keyhole sign or something. You'll win a prize. For more information, go check out patreon.com/throughthekeyhole. You can become a free member for a month to try us out so that you can read the post and get the rules down. But you get some cool prizes, some cool OU stuff. So for the absent Matt Burton, for Peyton Guthrie, for Alan Kenny, and myself, Brady Trentham, everybody, thank you so much for listening to The Keyhole. Until the next time, better.
Sooner.